How do you feel about a hike down here along the Snake River? Got Willow with us today. It is the 8th of March. Look what we have here. My frame rate is slow, 24 frames per second. It's going to be jumpy. I'm not set up for mobile photography, but I'll move in here and take a look. You can see that there's actually the remains of like a dugout there on the back of this house. People lived along here at some point in time in history and just made a living for themselves, living off the land. There's more of these up along here. I'll save that for another video though. Maybe show some of it on the way out. So in this video, I want to talk about supernatural, but you know what? I got to warn everybody, if you're here to hear anything supernatural, it's not going to happen. I don't, actually, let me get out of the wind. I bet you that's thumping on the mic. Okay. There. Okay, the supernatural that I'm talking about in the title, and it's not a clickbait title, is that on the monomyth, kind of commonly known as the hero's journey, identified by Joseph Campbell, who recognized it in material from antiquity and wrote about it in his book, The Hero of a Thousand Faces, that on step 3 in the monomyth of a 17-step template to follow, number 3 was supernatural aid. And we see supernatural aid in a lot of the stories in the myths. They don't exist in all teachings, but they do exist in a lot. We see, you know, anything from, in Greek myth, whoever the hero is in the beginning, they end up going off someplace and getting training supernatural from somewhere. There's some sort of supernatural that help that happens. Jason and the Argonauts, we see that where he gets taken to Olympus to talk to Zeus. We see that in Genesis where Moses is called to the mount to talk to God, the burning bush and the 10 Commandments and all of that. So those are component parts. But what is that? What is that really? We know that that's a story component part. But if we're breaking this down into the psyche, it's going to mean something different. It is not supernatural anymore. Joseph Campbell didn't completely unwrap that analog. He left it analogous. What is supernatural aid? The next step after this is the crossing of the first threshold. That's turning into the psyche to begin work. The supernatural aid, step 1 is the calling. Not many people are going to do it. You know you need to do it, you're going to go. Step 2 is commonly denial. And I think if we looked at that in our own life, it would probably be aligned up with the idea that we know what we're supposed to do. We know we're supposed to go heal. We know we have to go deal with this stuff. We know we have to go make amends with somebody over there that we don't want to talk to, that we don't want to deal with. We struggle with doing what we should do in order to heal. And I think that is the denial of the call, that is really what happens to us in life. It's not that we're saying, no, I don't want to do it. I think we're saying I don't have the courage to do it, perhaps. But we know we need to do it. At any rate, then the crossing of the threshold. And we're going to go in and begin working in our mind to function to affect a self-healing. And the material, the stories are structured in a way to kind of create how that happens in the stories. And the supernatural aid then is what? We need to have instructions. We need to know how we came about, what we're going to do. If we're going to cross the threshold and go into our psyche, we need to know, okay, well, when you get there, what are you going to do when you get there? How is this going to work? And how do you read the story in such a way that it plays out up in here that gives you instructions with how to work within your own mind to heal yourself? All of that is in there. So the supernatural aid, that's it right there. How do we do it? What are the instructions? And that's what this video is going to be about.
Well, okay. Supernatural aid. We have to know that we are products of our life experiences. Nothing more. And that we're holding on to life mentally in ways that are what is causing our issues. That there are people who came from places where they were very hurt. There are people who came from places that are not hurt. There are people who don't need to go on this path. There are people who will never go on this path. But this knowledge is for the people who need to go on the path and want to go on the path. And they're going to go on the path. This is what they need to know. That, yeah, you're just simply an electrochemical product of your past experiences, and that because they exist in that manner in an energy-based universe, along with everybody else in a cumulative or a collective psyche, that we're going to continue to experience life based in the manner that we're holding it emotionally. That holding on to pain and hurt and shame, all of the things that have happened to us, all the things that we've done to other people, that the things that we feel guilt over are the things that are preventing us from staying synced up with our higher being. In the Garden of Eden, when you have Adam and Eve that are naked and unashamed in the Garden of Eden, that represents the point in time in our life when we are little kids, we're self-aware, and we're happy. We got no issues. What happens after the sin, though, is that the clothing goes on and God sends them away. They're no longer connected with God in the same way. And what this represents is that when we're little kids, we're still connected to that higher being. But that as we begin to experience life and we begin to make judgments and we begin to have issues and we begin to have a clouded mind with respect to our happiness and our joy and our open feeling about everything, we lose that as time goes on. And that as we lose that as time goes on, that signifies losing our connection with our higher being or losing our connection with God. God is sending us away in doing that in life. And that represents the time in our life where we are accumulating things that are hurtful. All of life, you know what? We judge life based on what we see. We kind of wire ourselves based on what we observe happening in life. And that whatever we are today is a product of that. There are other issues. I forgot to mention that we have certain characteristics that we're born with. You don't get out of those. There are genetic things, there's sexual preferences, there's a number of different things that you're born with that it's just a part of variation in life, the creation of life. There's nothing wrong with that. What's the problem is the stuff that we accumulate that are hurtful, that are shameful, that are mental processes that are just derogatory. And understanding that we're a product of that big collective, that we're from there. As we use as we live from our consciousness, we feel the pain. We don't want to deal with those things. That's the part of us that we let be in charge. The conscious doesn't like that feeling. It's not going to allow it to happen. The higher being is not in charge at that time. The subconscious is acting out when it wants to act out. We need to understand that this higher being, we need to engage that to affect the change that we're looking to change. This higher being is what allows us to start looking at our consciousness and our life experiences. The consciousness and the life experiences emerge from that pool. The higher being is where we come from, and we want to reconnect with the higher being. But it's life experiences that have gotten in the way. And that as we create our life, we're creating that life through energy from the cosmos. That sounds kind of flaky, doesn't it? I don't know how to quite put that, but if we're doing something, we know we cannot We know energy cannot be created nor destroyed. If we are producing something in life, if we are creating some kind of life, the energy for that is coming from someplace. It's not like we're creating universes. No, we're just creating our own universe, our own life, our own experience. It's important to keep it grounded right there. When we are creating, we're creating our own experience our own life and our own universe, our own world, our own earth, through the way we hold our experiences and what we allow to take charge. The higher being is what comes in and says, okay, that's it, I'm taking back over. Conscious, you have to do the work. I haven't mentioned the Bhagavad Gita in quite a while. Arjuna he's the rightful heir to the land, but his family has it. They've had it on loan. They're supposed to give it back, but they're not going to give it back. So he's going to have to go do battle. And he's in his chariot going up and down the battle lines. This signifies him looking and going up and down. And he's there with Krishna, who is the charioteer. Krishna is the higher being in this case. And Krishna tells Arjuna, I cannot do any of the work for you. I can only advise you. You must do it all. This is exactly how it works in the mind. The higher being is telling the conscious, you must do the work. I can guide you. I can guide you. That's very plain to see in that one right there. In the end of that story, at the part of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna gives up and doesn't go and do it. The story continues on. The Mahabharata is a huge collection. The Bhagavad Gita is just one small piece of not even a complete story in there. That is a part of a monomyth where he is called, but he in the end he sits down in despair and doesn't go after it. So right in that story, he was called and he denied the call. Yep, right there. But we also learned that the higher being is going to be there with you, but that it is only the guidance, that you must do the work. It's pretty clear, I think, in that one, so that's probably a good example to bring in. At any rate, those are the things that we have to do. We have to be able to go in and face those things that we don't want to deal with. The very act of burying them and keeping them hidden away gives them power, gives them strength. The more we hate them, the more we don't like them, the more they become exactly what we hate and don't like. We have to embrace them somehow. You have to find a way to be okay with it, and that's it. And it's weird. You think about it and go, wait a minute, I got raped, I got molested, you telling me I'm supposed to just like that? You know what? No. How do we talk about this? How do we figure this out? It's about holding on to something electrically, chemically, in a way that it is stored there as a memory thing. It's like whenever you recall that, not only do you remember it, but you feel it too. It's like, what? There's more than just a memory chip. There's like an emotional chip that goes with it. That emotion is the issue. That is what continually acts out under the frequency of it. Shame continues to act out in shame. Anger continues to act out in anger. That sort of thing. That's the cause and effect. That is the seeds being planted, giving rise to trees of their nature, who gives fruit that has the seeds still in them, sort of thing. This is the cause and effect, but it's also the nature of what emerges is based on the nature of what is planted. The nature of what comes out of us is based on the nature of what we don't have resolved with inside of us. Look at all those GOP people acting out, the anti-gay, all that kind of stuff. What do you think their childhood was like? They got some issues. They're hurting people over their shame. You can see that. We do that. If we don't resolve our issues, we hide behind our fears. And we do that by lashing out at people who activate those. That's why when we're healing, it bothers the people around us. It all fits together like this. We're trying to pull ourselves out of a mass where we emerged from. And it's important that the higher being continually lets the conscious and the subconscious know that's what we're doing. We're trying to pull you up out of the freaking mass of crap that you're starting out in down there. Yeah, you want to go someplace else. You want to go to the top of the mountain. But in the meantime, You got 3 miles of crap to walk through before you even get to the shore. Then you got, you know, then you got a lot of dumpy things to go through before you even get anywhere. All right, well, I don't know what else to talk about as far as the supernatural aid. It's really understanding that we are simply a product of our beginnings, and that no matter where we come from in life, that we are that. You could have come from someplace else. We need to get out of this idea that I, me, everything revolves around me. I think that it's better off for us to think that we are just trying to emerge to an energy place that is higher than the physical place. And the physical world is where we get hurt and where that happens. But we didn't start there, and we don't have to finish there. And we're trying to reconnect with our higher being, but life experiences got in the way. We need to use the higher being to work with the consciousness. When the consciousness is saying, I am not going to deal with that stuff. I don't like it. It does not feel good. The conscious decides whether or not it's okay or not. The higher being has to be able to take over and say, look, conscious, you don't win this time. We're hurt and we're continually cycling someplace. This has to be fixed. You're done calling the shots. You have to heal. The conscious is going to fight that. It's going to cry. It's going to hurt. It's going to feel all kinds of things that are not okay, because that's what happens. And you have to recognize that from the higher being and go, that's okay. It's okay to have that feeling. Let it emerge. Let it emerge. Then when it emerges, let it go. Wait a week or so. It's going to hurt. It's not going to feel okay. Wait till it feels all right again and do it again. You'll find out that it's easier. Then do it again later. Then do it again, and you keep doing it until you go, wow, you know what? I think I got this resolved enough in my own mind that I can now face it. You still have to surface it into the public. If you say, yeah, I am no longer ashamed about this anymore, but I'm never telling anybody about it because I don't want anybody to know, you're still ashamed. Yeah, if those are the measuring sticks that we use to determine whether or not we've healed. Are you okay with it really? Or is it like, oh my God, no, I don't want to tell people about this. And I don't mean you have to go out and blab it all over in public. My whole story isn't out there, I can assure you. I'm telling what needs to be told to help people understand what needs to happen. And I can assure you that I had more than 5 or 6 things in my life that had to be resolved. You can't even count them at some point. And I think they still come up, you know. And we keep making the trip. But it's recognizing that something is there. And then later we have ghosts, thoughts, things come in that you're like, what? I resolved that issue. Why does this keep bothering me? And you have to know that you've got memories of other issues too. It's not just a painful experience, but maybe you sat off someplace for hours wiring this. That little part of you is still there too. It's going to be acting out. All of those things need to be acknowledged. You need to take your higher being and go back and find that little part of yourself and say, hey, it's okay now. We've learned. All you're doing is updating that memory right there. It is stored away like I hate to call it a computer, but think of it that way. Here's a memory stored. You have to change the memory, or as long as it's coming out under its terms. That's how we know what it is and what it feels like. That's the supernatural aid. Then when you come back, you're going to have trouble. I got to keep checking this battery is low. I got to make sure I'm still recording audio. Okay, I think that's it for this video. I think this would be a fun place to do another video on some other things out here, but I have to actually set the camera for a faster frame rate if I'm going to be moving around. It's too jumpy at 24 frames per second, so that doesn't work. And then pick a day that, yeah, this is actually not bad. It needs to be where there's not wind, so I think the recording is better. I'm kind of ducked down in here. Anyway, all right, that's it for this video. Supernatural aid, that's it. Hope it helps. Love one another. See you in the next video. Yeah, this is a gravel bar. All of this is basalt that was taken off the walls during the flood and just tumbled down. Get a scale here. That's a big flood. That's a very big flood. Yeah.